What's up, you guys? Oh my God. Well, I just locked up the biggest red day of my career. I set a new record. You know, schmuck that I am. I already had a $275,000 red day on my birthday a couple years ago. Well, blew that one out of the water today. It's pretty crazy how much you can lose in one day trading. I mean, everyone says it. Day trading is risky. It is. I mean, we know it. But man, today I got destroyed. So, what do I do now? I mean, I'm at this point where I don't even feel like looking at my computer. I'm just like, part of me is just like I can't even think about like even starting to rebuild. Where do I even start from with that big of a loss? Where do I even start? What's even the point of sizing down, trading with small size to make a couple $1,000s tomorrow? Like, what's even the point? That's like gonna take forever. So here I am, deep in the hole. I've been here before. You guys have been here before with me. So the only path forward is to try to rebuild. So let's try to do it. And I don't know. I'll do the recap. Same as I did the last time I had a big red day like this. I'll do the recap and yeah, looking at what else can I say? Let's get into it. All right, today's my recap. Biggest red day ever. All right, so we've invited you here because we love you, but we feel like we're losing you. And we want to fight to get you back, and we want to invite you to join the fight. So listen, we're going to say some things, you're going to hear some things, and then we're done. And if you're ready to join the fight, I want you to step in because welcome to your intervention. Let's get started. So today we're going to talk about recovering from a massive loss. Now, I know you clicked on this video because you love watching me lose money. I've taken some big losses in my career. Biggest red day ever, $275,000 on my birthday, no less. I have set a pretty high mark there, but everyone at this table has had some big losses. And I'm sitting at a table right now. We've got about $18 million in trading profits between all of us here. I'm super proud of these guys. These are students of Warrior Trading. And we're going to talk to you about how we recover from loss, because there is no such thing as a day trader who doesn't lose money. Being a day trader means you are resilient. You get back on the horse when you get knocked down. And so we're going to share with you some of the tips and tricks and strategies that we have for recovering from big losses. So I want to go ahead and jump right in with Chris. Why don't you tell me, what do you do when you have a big loss? And I know we all know how it feels, that pain, how frustrating it is. What do you do?
Yeah.
What's your go-to?
I mean, I've had a couple pretty big losses, you know. I've done really well for myself since I started trading. And a big part of that, since I'm a pretty aggressive trader, was taking some pretty big losses. One of the first things that I like to do after taking that big loss is I need to, first of all, stop trading, usually. The opportunities to get back in have passed. How do you prevent yourself from stopping? I mean, that right there, because for almost all of us, our worst day is because we traded way too far. So interestingly enough, with my strategy, usually when I get stopped out, there's still often a big setup still waiting because I'm shorting into strength. So there's still a setup waiting. So I often have a chance to kind of mitigate that loss. Let's assume that has passed. All has ended very badly for me.
Okay.
One of the first things I need to do is kind of come back down to reality. You know, even though I might have some valid setups and some good action, I need to step back and realize that what just happened and that I'm going to need some time to process the loss. And I'm also going to need some time to make back that loss. So in my case, you know, there have been a couple of situations, you know, with 5-figure losses where I knew it was going to take a week or two, if not more, based on my strategy and my average winning days to make that money back.
I love that. So right away, you get yourself in the mindset of, I'm going to be sitting here. I got to just sort of, hunker down in the trenches. I'm going to be here for a couple weeks. I'm not going to try to make it back all in one trade.
And to
you
me,
accept that reality.
To me, that's acceptance, right?
Yep, that's acceptance.
If I'm not accepting the loss, that's generally going to lead to revenge trading and me taking unacceptable setups and risk to try and make that money back. So, and I would only do that because I haven't accepted the loss.
Yep.
So really what I'm trying to do is internalize the loss, accept that it happened, it's over. Now, as soon as I can, wrap my head around that it's going to be a process to dig myself out of it. I've done it before. Now, I mean, for somebody's first time, they might have the experience to reflect upon. But at this point, I've had a couple of big drawdowns, and every time I've slowly and steadily pulled myself out, and within a couple of weeks, I'm back on top again.
That's awesome.
So knowing that I've done it before, and the process has always been the same. Generally, I come back day one, trading my setups, trying to be as disciplined as if the loss didn't happen. Treat every day as if it's a normal day. But I generally size down a little bit after that big loss. You know, I don't want to get emotional. I don't want to hit things with size unnecessarily, you know, and that's just me being a little cautious. And I think I've gotten a little more cautious as I've experienced more drawdowns, you know, as I've experienced what it's like, and, you know, just trying to accept that reality.
Yeah, once you see the the reality of how big losses can be, you'll learn to start to slow down a little bit.
Yeah.
Jess, tell me about you, because your strategy is a little more wild card. You've got some big green days, but some big red days. How do you emotionally tolerate being on the roller coaster? Because man, I don't know if I can keep doing it. I've slowed down a lot. I'm like slow and steady, but
I know you're turning into an old man on me.
yeah,
No, I really like to. I actually embrace the roller coaster feeling. I like that feeling of, you know, big swings, and it's not really a feeling. It's almost a disconnect. So I'm not attached to loss. You know, financial loss is not loss. It's you know, if you lose somebody, that's loss. If you know, something really happens in life, that's loss. Financial loss is not, it's not devastating to me. So I think I'm upwards to maybe 15, 20K in my biggest red day, right around 15,000 or so, plus commissions and all that. But it's, I'm very good at disconnecting from that feeling. So my first initial instinct is, you know, what just happened? What did I do wrong? Did I misread something? Did I take too much size? And it almost sounds silly, but I look at it, I'm like, well, I just lost 10K. So that means we're in the market to make 10K. There must have been volatility there to, you know, to create that loss. And my first instinct is hands off and to see if I can maybe start to chip away at it. But it's only in a time of, you know, trading so present that I'm not reaching to recover. I'm just actively trading what's in front of me. So even when I show up the next day, it's not to recover my 10K loss. It's just to trade what's in front of me, because that will override any loss being fully present.
Yeah, I mean, there are no doubt, like some of in fact, my biggest green day ever, I went red 25 grand before finishing up almost $500,000. Sometimes getting kicked in the teeth gives you that sort of boost to come back swinging hard.
Yeah.
And when it connects, it can work. Now that's very dangerous, because you've got to make sure you've got control over it. And in the wrong market, that instinct to come back swinging hard, you're going to fall on your face.
Yeah, it's very important not to lie to yourself during that situation. What's actually happening, and I think it's very clear if you're very honest with yourself. It's very clear to see what's happening right there.
Is the market truly hot? Because if it is, the loss was from big volatility, unexpected, but if the volatility is continuing, opportunity is still there. So yeah, that ability to detach yourself from the loss, you know, that's huge. Manoli, tell me about that, because I know you're able to really detach yourself.
Yeah, so I feel like I'm able to detach myself because I know that as a trader, even the consistent ones, there's an ebb and a flow to the markets. So you're always going to go through like some type of drawdown. It's kind of inevitable. Like, you know, it's coming. So in the beginning, when you're first starting out, you don't really know that, or you're not fully aware, because you're just trying to figure things out as you're going and maybe become a little more consistent. I came in at the right time and I had early success. And in my first, I think it was 10 or 11 months of trading, I turned that $14,000 into $800,000. So I was thinking,
Crazy.
I was coming for $1 million in less than a year. I thought that was a cool milestone. I had that in my mind, and I was I mean, I sized up so fast. It was kind of ridiculous looking back on it. I was making, 30, 40, 50K days. And that was okay in that market. And then I hit my first really slow period, and I went through a 3-month drawdown that was about $200,000. And I know you might say, well, you made 800,000, that's great, but that was all new money to me. I don't come for money. So when I went through that 200,000 slow drawdown after just quitting my job and taking it kind of full on, that hit me hard.
Yeah.
So those losses in that long period, that was devastating for me. And it was a big struggle. And eventually I just came to terms with, I'm not going to make that money back, quickly. And I was back to that mindset like when I started, where it was, you know what, if I can just make $100,000 a year or $50,000 a year, I'm going to be okay here. So my account was sized back down to 30K. I didn't want to lose any more money. Got me back into building momentum for, I went to just 50K days to $1,000 days. But before you know it, when you hit that momentum, that streak where you're starting to feel good, that confidence, you start sized right back up. You're feeling good. You're taking green days, and you make that money back so much faster than you think.
Yeah.
So now, because I'm aware of that, and because I've taken big losses, I mean, I've had solid days, but I think my biggest red day was like $80,000. And now for me, I'm just super proactive. So I don't know if you guys saw a couple weeks ago, if I feel myself choppy at all, because I love taking risk, I'll size in, and I don't have a ton of control over that. If I really like a setup, I'm going to take it with size. So now if I feel like there's a day where I feel like I got chopped up at all, so I was like red, then green, then red, then green, or I was super red at any point and then got back break even and walked away, I will immediately size my entire account back down to 30K, even if it was at 200, 300, 400,000, because I'm not worried about missing out on profits anymore. I'm more worried about going through a big drawdown period that's going to take me longer to build momentum again and get back to where I was.
That is so big. That right there is huge. Jess and I were talking about this recently. During a bear market, trying to keep yourself positioned basically at your peak, ready to fight at all times.
Yeah.
And that means, okay, red days happen, keep them small, try to keep them tight. That way, if the next day something pops up and is hot, bam, you're ready to hit it.
Exactly.
And so, having to go through such a big setback that then you feel you have to draw your account down to bring down emotions, it's not fun to have to do that, because then you're basically guaranteeing it's going to be a long haul to recoup.
Exactly.
And it doesn't have to be that way if in the first place you can avoid letting a red day get that big. So like every single day you're trading, you have to be kind of like thinking on the defense, like I need to make sure at the end of the day today, I'm still ready to fight again hard tomorrow.
Right.
Hamang or Max, Danny, do you guys have anything you want to add about recovering from massive red days? So we got a record here of 80,000.
80,000. That's a big
Mine's
one.
275. Yours is like 18, 20.
Yeah, we'll call it
Okay.
20.
Mine's like 20.
34.
34,000,
20.
20,000,
Also 34,000.
34,000,
23,000.
23,000.
Yeah.
So I've set the record on biggest red day. Well,
I'm not going to say congrats.
yeah. Thanks.
Good job. You did it.
Yeah. But I am, while the biggest winner for being the biggest loser, I will take some pride in that. So tell me, what was it like for you? Because I know your story. Many of you who know Danny, he was so disciplined about trading in the simulator or trading with really small share size, like 100 shares,
Yeah.
50 shares for months, slowly scaling up. And then within a period of like 4 months, you all of a sudden were having like a $30,000, $40,000 month in what was it, March? Or
So I started January 2020 just live trading. I didn't know a whole lot. I didn't know that there was a sim. I didn't know that there were classes that I could take. I found some videos on YouTube and I was interested. I needed another source of income. I was like, I can give this a try. So I started with $100 in a TD account. I added 100 here, a couple hundred here, a couple thousand there. It took me 6 months to go through my drawdown period to get back up to zero. At the end of that 6 month period, I had like $12,000 in my account. And at that point I was like, I'm back to break even. I'm showing progress. I decided at that point to take out of my retirement account pretty much everything. And
bold
I
move.
funded, yeah, I funded up to just over PDT.
Yep.
That August, which was the first month that I was over PDT, I made 11,000. The next month, September, I made just under 14. I had a $5,000 red month after that. And then I joined your winter school coming into 2021 because I was already profitable, but the plan pretty much always was to join Warrior when I could afford it. So I thought more education is never a bad thing. Turned out that at the same time, the market in winter 2021 was hot.
Yeah.
And so it was February 2021. I was on my best month ever. I had just crossed 40,000 on the month. And that same day, after going from 36,000 to 40,000 that day on the month, I took a $20,000 loss. And that was pretty rough, but I was still ending up on my best month yet. But man, that loss was tough. Luckily, it was such a hot market that it didn't take long to recover. But I think the biggest, most important point is being honest with yourself about why that loss happened. And do you need to size down? Is your strategy still valid and working? Can you make it up quickly? Is it going to take 2 or 3 weeks to make it up? For me, it took 3 weeks to make that up, which I think is pretty relatively fast. But being honest with yourself is such a huge point when you're taking losses about what do you need to do to stop the bleeding and start to curl back up again.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's huge. It's really hard in the moment when you're dealing with that emotional response. This is something that, trading, big losses trigger emotional response.
Yeah.
And so when you're in that emotional fight or flight response,
So hard.
your actions, they're not intellectual. They're not based on your, all the education, all the knowledge you have. You're making these very primitive reactions. And the reaction is you're trying to alleviate that feeling. And so when you have a big loss, the easiest way to alleviate it is to hit a big winner. And so then
just
you're doing
erase it.
anything to hit a big winner, to
Double the
erase
share
it.
size,
And that's the
like,
opposite of acceptance.
Yeah.
Right? Then you're just flailing. Desperation sets in. And this is where people go full tilt, right?
Yep.
In gambling.
This is
but in
how
trading,
you lose your whole account in one day.
it can happen very quickly. That's, what Hamang was saying. You have to respect your capital. You have to respect your account. And it's important to put thresholds on your account from a higher limit. I call my broker and they have limits on my account. But at the same time, if someone's really going full tilt, they could just
Doesn't
call up
matter.
their broker.
Make a phone
And
call.
so, day trading is not for you if you have a history of doing that kind of thing. You need to have a huge degree of discipline and self-control, but resilience to be able to get back on the horse.
You have to think about it like a long-term game. No one trade, no one day, no 1 week or month
Right.
should be able to end your career.
Never. Yeah. No, that's true. And Max, did you want to add anything else on this?
Yeah. So when I first started out trading, I would take like $3,000 or $4,000 losses, and all I would do is just go lay in bed all day and sleep and act like that was the worst thing that ever happened to me.
Devastating. Yeah.
At the time, those were huge losses. But recently, I took my biggest loss, a $34,000 loss in the end of August, I believe it was. And at the time, I was unfazed. But after that, though, once I started having more consecutive days and realizing that something wasn't working for me, that's when I knew something had to change. So I've actually learned this from Manoli, but I sized down my account massively after that so that I would limit my risk and just realize that I had to start over.
Back to basics.
And I think that's the best part about this, though, is that not one of us are perfect and that we'll always be learning from one another, because we're never going to be perfect at trading. But I think that's something to take into consideration as well, though.
And at any time you can go back to basics. At any time, worst case scenario, you can pull the plug, size your account down, go down to 4,000 shares or 2,000 or whatever it is. You hope that as you gain more experience, you can intervene before you get to that point, because there's a cost of doing that, but it's sometimes what you need to do to press the reset button. So those of you guys who have been joining in today, I want to invite you to join the fight. So what do you say? Are you willing? Listen, trading is hard. And we're all here. We're all going to agree this is a really hard thing to do. But if you want to make it happen, you need to come to the table with discipline and patience. So bring your discipline, bring your patience, be resilient, and we'll see you for the next episode. Hey, I want to thank you for watching this episode. I hope you really enjoyed it. This channel has crossed over 1 million subscribers, and it's thanks to viewers like you. If you want to check out a couple other episodes that other traders are watching, you can see them listed right here. Thank you as always for tuning in, and I hope you subscribe to the channel.